Hello everyone, this is Jovial Developer here. Hey, so I know it's been about 7 months since I've posted any new content on my channel, and that's because I've been on co-op and, we've been dealing with the things going on right now. But I thought I would do something kind of special for this time. This is going to backtrack to when I was learning C++. Um, And what I have here is a midterm project for the first level C++ class that I took. I created this project in 2015, and it was an interesting project to make by myself. It's based upon the proper mortgage formula, so I'll go over the written form of that first. So here you have your monthly payment is equal to the principal times the monthly interest rate times 1 plus the monthly interest rate to the power of the number of months that it takes. And then you have 1 plus divided by, and then 1 plus the monthly interest rate to the power of the number of months minus 1. And let me move this a bit. So when you figure this out, you take your number of years for your mortgage and you multiply that by 10 and you have the power of n here. And for which is your number of months. Yeah, this is your n. This is your number of months. And your monthly interest rate, you take your annual interest rate and you divide that by 12. You have I. And the way I have this set up on here is I wrote this in a comment in the programming form, how to do it. You have your numerator, which is the monthly interest rate, times the principal to the power of 1 plus the monthly interest rate times the length of months. And you have this comma here. This is a known thing in programming where you can write a comma beside the parentheses and have that multiplication ability there. Well, no, that's not what it is. This parentheses here is raising to a power. Yeah, so you have your number of months to a power. This is the base, and then this is the exponent in using the POW function. And to be able to use the POW function, you have to use CMath in your C++ library. So we know you have to have a string, include string, include IOStream, and using namespace. But before I go over everything, I'm going to run the application first. So let's see how that goes. So I'm going to hit debug, click without debugging, and I'll put this in the middle so you can see it. But this is the name of my application, Mortgage 4-Hour Living. I don't know why I use such a weird name, but you'll see a little bit of things in here that aren't quite perfect. As I said, I was learning C++ at the time in 2015, so not all of this is perfect. I will mention today I added this option to create your own annual interest rate. Interest rates here are created based upon a city that a user would live in and stuff. So that's interesting. So the city I live in is Cincinnati. And then after you choose your annual interest rate, you type in what kind of loan you want to take out. For now, I'll just click option 2 for the medium-sized house. And for this last part is the school district. I thought it was kind of neat to add like an additional expense to the monthly interest rate based upon the school district that you live in. But if it's not applicable, you would just type in free, and that's totally fine. But at the time that I wrote the school district thing, I thought it would be kind of silly, to think about like how much money your school district you live next to is using your money. I see it's important for people to give money to the school district, but it's almost like as part of your expenses. Okay, so how many months will it take you to pay this loan back? So you could just take just take 360 months. That's 30 years. Then I have a result. So results of my transactions, I said I live in Cincinnati. My annual interest rate is not 22%, but 2.2%. Looking at these interest rates now is actually kind of funny because I think these aren't as high as I made them before, but just making them up. Your house desired is a medium house. The amount you're borrowing is $150,000. This house is not near a school area, so they do not take any monthly expenses. I said I was taking out a 30-year mortgage, so it will take me 360 months to pay back. And that is a long-term loan. And then now I have a monthly payment of $569. And then you take your monthly payment, multiply that by 12. And the way I have this set up is, for this midterm project, we weren't learning separate functions and passing values to functions at this time. We were just learning to take input from the user. But I'm still kind of proud of this application. So I'll hit OK. To close that window. So let's go through this code, explain how stuff works. So I have my main function. Everything's in my main function because, as I said, we weren't learning functions at that time. I think we learned functions 2 weeks later after this. But we have a string for our city status, our loan status, our house status, school status. We have an integer for city selection, the house size, the school quality, the district fee. And we have our doubles, our annual interest rate, which is based upon the city that we live in. Monthly interest rate is the annual interest rate divided by 12. The length in years, the length in months, the principal, the monthly payment is the final result. And then I have a numerator and a denominator here so that the calculations are kind of neat. I don't like to put all the calculations on one line of code so as to not stay super confusing. But yeah. So this is the cout statement. You can just make this pretty by putting parentheses. And what you have written on there is what's shown up on the application. And today, as I said before, I had this I choose the city function here. But when I did create this application, like at first, I had it to where the user could also enter their the size mortgage that they want to take out. So when the user selects the city selection, there's a switch statement, each that has a case and a break. It has the annual interest rate. These are doubles. And for this one I created today, one thing you should know is when you do have a switch statement that you want to have a default, which is important. And you also want to have this break statement so that when you select that case, it doesn't jump onto the case after that. This next selection is for loan choices. Oh, wait, the default section is when you make an incorrect selection of the annual interest rate. That's what that is. Okay, yeah. And so that's what this checks for, to see if the user entered their input correctly. And this next part is selecting a house. It's the same menu that I created here. It's just for selecting a house. But as we had here, take out the size loan that you want. You could just enter in using CIN. Although house size is these selections here. Later on in this switch statement, because I have another switch statement here. When you pick a smaller house, you choose the school district, and then you have a switch statement within that to select the school district. And this is a little bit of spaghetti code here that this repeats over and over again for each size house. But, I still think this is pretty neat. And here, if you don't make a proper selection on the school district, that there's an error in the application. Same thing with house status and school status. So I just kind of have everything default to 0 in the application if you have something that doesn't fit. Yeah, it just switches everything to error here. It asks you how many months it'll take to pay the loan back. And then based upon how many years or whatever, there's a different there's different statuses. This here uses an else-if statement, an if, an else-if, and an else, which is totally fine to use in C++. So what I'll do is I'll go back and I'll run the application again. Not to bore you or anything, but you'll see what it looks like in real time. So hit debug. Start without debugging. And so this time I'm going to select 7. I choose the city. And I should have this enter in your annual interest rate as a percentage. But what I'll type in is I'll type in 0.05, a 5% interest rate. And then for the house size, pick out the size I want. So I'll write in $300,000 for the loan for the mortgage. And I'll type in a very good school district. For months, I'll type in 360 again. But let me first show you how I was able to enter in $300,000 on this line on this application. All I have to do is minimize that and go to line right here, CIN principal. Have that set as the principal. So that's how that's able to work in the application. I enter in 360 months, which is 30 years. That's a long time to be paying a mortgage. But it all calculates the same. So the monthly payment is $1,685. $1,685.46. And I have the school take $75 a month added to the original mortgage payment, just for fun. So before I close this application here, after I type in 360 here, I'll show you what it'll do. So here's the guts of the application. After all of our error handling and our selections and stuff, because I still mentioned the loan status of the short term, the medium term, the long term, and the error handling. Here are the guts of the application. Remember, if our annual interest rate is not 0, and our principal is not 0, and our district fee is not equal to -1. Now, -1 is a condition that I wrote if for the district fee part that they didn't put in the right selection. There's a case that defaults to -1 for error input. And if there is anything wrong with these conditions, then everything will just default to error, and you won't have a calculation. You'll have to restart the application again. In fact, how about I show you this? If I go to debug, start without debugging, and I type in 8 here. Yeah, see, it just default to all of these basic default statuses. But when it's done correctly, well, let's say I live in Columbus this time. Let's say I live in a larger house. Let's say I live in a very good school district. Let's say it takes me 240 months to pay the loan back. So instead of 360, which is 30 years, I have 240, which is 20 years to pay back that loan. I'm not sure how well the green looks on here. Let me fix that. I'm just entering this in real quick. Okay, cool. So before I hit enter on this, let's go to here. And I'll draw with my pencil what is what. So this number of months n would be equal to like 240. This annual interest rate would be 0. Let's look back on the application again. Yeah, Columbus has an interest rate of 3.3%. So that's what. So that's how that would work here. And this principal is $200,000. Now, I'm not going to solve it for you, but I was just kind of showing the placement of where those actual numbers are in the application, just to kind of give you an idea on how to set it up yourself if you were going to program it or whatever. But this is the code form of it. If there's no problem with the error handling, I take my monthly interest rate. I get it from my annual interest rate divided by 12. Take my lengths in years, I take my lengths in months divided by 12. So that's what I got. I have my numerator separated from my denominator, as I said earlier. And remember how important it is to have your parentheses correct when you're doing calculations in programming. You're going to make sure you count 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. So that way it's opened and closed correctly. And then this PAL application that I mentioned before just means if you want to raise something to an exponent. So this length in months is raised to an exponent. And you have your marker here. But once you have your numerator and your denominator, take your numerator and your denominator, divide them, and you should have everything calculated. So when I go in here, I enter this, I have my result. The city you live in is Columbus. Annual interest rate, 3.3%. House you desired is a larger house. The amount you're borrowing, $200,000. School district is a very good school district. School takes $75 a month. Your loan will take 240 months to pay back. Your loan will take 20 years to pay back. This is a medium-term loan. And your monthly payment is $1,214 with the school tax. And then without the school tax is $1,139.47. So I thought you would think that this is interesting. I know coding is not super exciting for a lot of people, but I found this to be really interesting because I had a streak, and I just kept writing and writing when I was doing this midterm project. It was a lot of fun, actually. And it's cool that I can go back, revisit it, and explain how everything worked out for it. Because I'm proud of it. Just kind of shows me that I have a knack for this kind of thing if I can continue to study it. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to like and subscribe to Jovial Developer. I will be sure to make more videos in the future. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, go ahead and put it in the comments. And be respectful to as well. And be respectful to each other in the comments. Thanks for watching my video. You guys have a good day.